Wow, sorry about that. So yeah, all kinds of updates again, right? So this is a continuation of the last series. This is going back to the first of the World Health Organization's updates. This is January 22nd, and we're going to go into the first question period. We're just skipping all the formalities because they don't really have a lot to say. So we're just going to go into questions and answers from the reporters. And this is before they declared a state of emergency or anything, right? And I believe that they just put an expert team on the ground in Wuhan. And one of those doctors actually became infected. He made it to a publication in the Lancet because he contracted this virus through his eyes. And the publication is transmission through the ocular surface in the Lancet under the coronavirus, if you want to go check that out. And yeah, so he got infected. But nobody knew at this time. They're just going there to gather data, and this is just one of the first updates kind of that they were given on this, and let's just hear what they have to say way back in the day. And this first one is a question from the Chinese state run media. So it's the CCTV, Chinese Communist Party television. And the question is about their evaluation of the current situation. Let's see what they have to say. I turned the volume up this time in my settings for the playback, so hopefully it comes through a little clearer this time.
And I will ask you to introduce yourself first and the outlet you are working with. So we will start with, colleague from China.
I'm a journalist from CCTV. My question is to Your Excellency, Mr. Director General, Dr. Tedros, about WHO's evaluation of the measurements by the Chinese government in response to the epidemic. After the outbreak of 2019 novel coronavirus epidemic, how do you comment on the liaison and reporting between the Chinese government and relevant departments with WHO? With your expert group already in China, what evaluation does WHO have on Chinese medical institutions regarding outbreak control and patients' treatments? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, this is a novel coronavirus, and it's a new discovery. So identifying the pathogen was done swiftly, and it shows the capacity that China has now. And the sequencing was done quickly, but more importantly, it was shared immediately. And that's why Korea, Japan, Thailand were able to diagnose the new coronavirus quickly. In addition to that, actions taken immediately, especially on the market, to Wuhan market, seafood market, and followed by other actions was very commendable. And the involvement of the leadership, starting from the president himself, who gave really clear guidance, the premier and the minister, was also very impressive and different actually from previously, from previous actions. You see the capacity and you see the political commitment. And that's continuing, and we appreciate that. But at the same time, although there is good capacity in China, they have also invited our experts. So our experts are now on the ground as we speak with Chinese experts assessing the situation, and that's why we're saying we will have more information and we will reconvene tomorrow. So that's what we see from WHO side, and we really encourage China to continue that way, because not only that will help China to clean the outbreak as soon as possible, but also to help in preventing it from spreading internationally.
Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself, Marco.
My name is Marco Clementi of Rai Italian TV. This is my question. Which is the level beyond which a local emergency becomes an international emergency according to WHO?
Yeah, so remember, this video was before they declared it, international emergency for the whole world, right? So anyway, they're kind of asking, what kind of entails, a response like that, because everybody at this time was seeing that, there's some crazy things going down, all right, and people were kind of questioning, like, why aren't you guys, why aren't you guys waiting, or why, you're still waiting, but they say data, right? And data was the same thing they've been saying since day one. Well, we don't have the data. And the last video I did was the most recent update on February 18th. It was, yeah, it was a lot, right? And they still don't have nothing. And this is one of the first updates they did. They still have nothing here. But, it's am I criticizing them too much for not gathering the data fast enough? Well, it's not their fault necessarily, but these are the people that are making they're not making decisions, but they're an advisory committee. That's all they are. They just advise on the situation. They can't order anyone to do anything. They gather scientific data, they interpret it, and they share it, what they have with the world, but they don't have anything to share with us. So, but anyways, there is key things in these I guess in these meetings. So we're still going to go through them, and the next one is going to be about the transmission. This is what we knew about transmission back on January 22nd, and there's questions about mutating, this thing becoming, because that's a very high possibility, and a lot of people aren't thinking about that. So a lot of people don't understand the biology of mutations, and especially through this type of virus. This type of virus is especially high at has a high probability of producing a viable mutant with the more people that it infects. Right? The more people that it infects, the more chances are something's going to pop out of somewhere, right, and get a mind of its own. So, yeah, let's check out what they got to say on the transmission and mutation.
Right. Reuters' Stephanie Nebahay. Could you tell us whether the panel, I don't know, would be appropriate for the chairman or Mike, tell us about the discussion of evidence that you were seeing about human-to-human transmission, and what evidence you might have been presented with about any mutation in the virus which possibly has made it more transmissible, or any super spreading events that you may have seen. Can you give us an idea of what your understanding is at the moment?
I think we are in agreement with Chinese authorities, who have been very clear and transparent that there is evidence of human-to-human transmission.
Okay, so they had human-to-human transmission and evidence of it back then, right? They knew that. They knew for a fact that we had human-to-human transmission. Sorry about that. I was playing back. And this is before they declared an international emergency, right? But they're saying human-to-human transmission in China. But don't worry, there's nothing happening outside of China because they didn't happen to have any data. So it's such a vital piece of the puzzle, and it's wrong, right? And I just want to share this information out there so people can kind of, get a heads up and make your own decisions, right? I hope it helps even one person.
And the evidence points to human-to-human transmission in the context of close contact with the suspect case or within a healthcare environment. So the virus clearly, and this is not unusual, previous SARS epidemics and MERS epidemics have demonstrated human-to-human transmission. The current Ebola epidemic in Congo has gone through multiple generations of human-to-human transmission. It is not the existence of human-to-human transmission that purely determines the impact of the event. What matters is the route of that transmission and whether we've identified those routes adequately and then give the proper advice to break the chains of transmission, and whether we can track those chains of transmission in an appropriate way. And we're back to the simple actions of public health: early identification of cases, identification of high-risk contacts, following those contacts and ensuring that if they develop illness that they're isolated quickly. So those are the principles. So we may go through generations of human-to-human transmission. If the route of transmission is still due to close personal contact and droplet infection, then the device or the disease is essentially containable. The issues that arise.
Okay, but we know now that that's not the case, right? We know that it's not only transmit through the droplets now, we know that it's aerosol, and that's actually very contagious. And he said it's essentially contagious. He said it's essentially containable if it's like that. But now we know it's not like that. It's worse. So is it not, like, how much more containable, or how more volatile is this now that these other things that we know now? All right, so let's go back and explore what we knew then, compare what we know now, right? Kind of thing. Go back in time. And I hope I hope it helps. Because it's going to help you prepare, right? It's going to give you a headset to be like, I'm just not talking out of my ass here. I'm going to show you why you should be more concerned than what you might already be. And at least take some actions, right? And everybody's in different situations. Everybody can only do what they can do, right? But at least if you're aware, you can take extra precautions, right?
Are the unknowns as to whether or not there are other routes of transmission occurring, and at this time it is not possible to determine that absolutely. It would appear that the main routes of transmission are along the expected routes of transmission for coronaviruses, and that is part of the extension of the deliberation of the committee is to further consider these matters.
All right, but I think they knew back then. Right, I kind of did. I kind of think they did, kind of thing. But they just didn't have enough science to prove it, right? But now we do have the science that supports that this is actually highly transmissible. And not only do we have the science, we have, the raw data from the cruise ship. Just look at the cruise ship that was quarantined in Japan, Yokohama. We know the tests. Well, I'll promise you that they even confirm that the tests aren't accurate most of the time, and that not only is that one factor that is hampering, testing this, it's also the fact that it's very hard to test for. Like, you might think like, oh, they can just test for this. Like, no, like it's not like that. They actually have to develop a test, and they develop this really fast, so it's not really accurate. It is the best they have. Right? And they're still trying to, get their testing procedures better. And then they sent out a bunch of faulty test kits. You remember that, right? In the news? If you don't, just go back and just type in Google, faulty test kits, coronavirus. It's everywhere. All right, but you're not hearing about it that much. They're trying to downplay it, but that's huge impact, especially to places that were relying on those tests that didn't have them but might have confirmed cases. Right? It's a massive miscalculation. And anyway, let's just keep going. I'll show you. Actually, wait. What is next? 2019, 21. Okay, so they're gonna ask about the quarantine in Wuhan, and Wuhan is where this all originated. Because Wuhan's quarantine, it's just unfolding, right, at this time. Just the first city. That's it. All the rest of China is not affected at all at this time. No areas. Just Wuhan. Alright, travel's still going. 100%. 100%. Everywhere. Alright? To and from abroad. Okay?
Reaction to the news that Wuhan is effectively being quarantined. This is a very severe action, and I would like your thoughts, please.
Thank you very much, Helen. We didn't hear you very well, but I understand there was a question about the transmission and possible generations of transmission. The second part of your question, please.
The second part was, I would like WHO's comment on the decision by authorities in China to effectively seal off Wuhan. It's a very severe measure, and I'm wondering what WHO thinks about that.
Thank you, Helen. We understand first question is about transmission, and second question is about measures put in place by Wuhan city. Who would like to take?
I can start and hand over to Sylvie or Maria. My understanding is that we have not at this point confirmed third, fourth generation transmission, but our colleagues can speak to that. And in reference to a previous question, Stephanie's previous question on the genetic diversity, the virus is showing stability and not showing a divergence or any unusual activity. All viruses change. Every time someone is infected, it's tiny differences in the virus, but we're not seeing huge changes in the viral genomic sequence in that regard. So maybe I could pass to Maria or Sylvie to just maybe address the issue of generational transmission.
So thanks for that question. So we had some, thank you for that question with regards to human-to-human transmission. We're very thankful to the colleagues to sharing information about the situations in their country. What our colleagues have shared with us is, as Mike has described, some human-to-human transmission amongst close contacts. And what investigations are underway to fully determine the extent of this. So at the present time, we don't know the full extent of human-to-human transmission, but what we've seen are human-to-human transmission events amongst close contacts in families and in healthcare settings. And as Mike said previously, this is not unexpected for a respiratory pathogen. We have not been presented any evidence or have seen any evidence of ongoing transmission where we've had third or fourth or fifth generation. But as we said, our colleagues are working very hard to better understand the extent of infection and where this infection is occurring.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so what she said there, the hospital got infected. Of course it did. It went through the hospital like mad. But still, they're not knowing a whole lot back in this time either. So let's go to the next one, which would be, the question of why not declare a public health emergency at this time, considering, the actions being taken by China, because I was watching this at the time. A lot of people weren't watching it. Most people didn't realize this was going on. I was watching this going, holy fuck, this is like something out of a movie. Excuse my language. But yeah, really. And I was kind of questioning the same thing. I was like, okay, well, yeah, if China's locking down a city of 11 million people and the videos that were coming out of there, let's just pause for a moment. I'm going to show you the hospital, because she said it went through the hospital, right? This is Wuhan. This video is old. January 23rd. Alright? And this update was on the 22nd. But this video just didn't come out and upload to the internet miraculously on the 23rd. This was taken around the 20th, the 19th, around that area. So, and it's got, there's a couple of videos of this around, and it doesn't have the English subtitles, but let's just take a look, right? This is the Wuhan hospital, and let's look what Ground Zero looked like around, before the 20th of January.
是什么状态了啊？已经看见了吗？这是医院里边啊，家里有孩子的。
See, they set up these tents outside the hospital, right? Because everybody inside the hospital was infected. They couldn't take new people into the hospital because they just get infected. It was through the whole hospital. It infected all the doctors, the nurses, even the head of the hospital died in Wuhan, just recently. Like the director of the hospital, the guy who runs the whole show. Right? Yeah. Right? Like this thing might have like a 3-month lag period before it actually gets you. Right? We're seeing mild cases, but I think that's just the start of it. This thing is epic. I'll show you.
能不出来，千万别出来。这个事儿现在远远比你们想象当中要严重，知道吗？真的非常非常严重。看这里边，现在这是医院里边，已经是什么样？
There. It's inside a hospital. Can you see this? Alright, that's what he's saying there. I just wanted to pause that for a second so everybody could kind of... I know there's a line through it. Not the greatest streamer. You get what you got.
看见了吗？
But it's good information.
看这跟他妈生化危机一样，我操，跟他妈生化危机一样。
This guy's waiting for a bus ticket, or trying to get out of the city, and died trying to get a ticket before the evacuation, right? And this is when this is the hospital. This is like, I know it kind of looks all fuzzy and weird, but this is like where they're, where they made those great big hospitals. This is just, I guess they shut everything down, like everything's blocked, can't get through. And this is the guy that they found. He was in the airport. And they put him in a quarantine fucking cell. I thought there was English subtitles in this one. Call me a liar. Let me see. Is it? I thought that there was, but maybe not. And this just happened, this just happened right at quarantine, right? Like, this is just when they shut the city down. Alright, they came and they blocked the roads off, and like, nobody was getting in. That was it. When they shut it down, that was it. Didn't matter what your excuse was or what you had to do. No one in, no one out. Alright, we'll just take, this is like, this is right around this time that the World Health Organization is doing their, look at that. Alright? They shut it down instantly. Like, fucking instantly. Look, let's check out, here's a little news article. But here's, January 22nd, alright? China quarantines city of 11 million after deadly virus spreads. And check out the tweet. Wuhan authorities just quarantined the entire city. No one permitted to leave without special reason. And, you know what I mean? You're not going to get out. They just say special reason on the notice that they sent out to everybody. Yeah, you weren't getting out. And they just stopped it. Like, instant. Could you imagine? You're just doing your thing, going home or going wherever, and like, it's just... You're stuck there. And when this happened, people all raced to the stores to get food, and like, it turned savage real quick, right? Because some people were taking like some people were just taking more food and other people were kind of fighting, like saying, no, I'll save some for other people, and like, but everybody was just fucking just going mad, right? So back to the World Health Organization update at this time when these things were happening. So what is the next one? And it's good to relate this imaging and these news you know, and this stuff happening at this time, because it gives us a sense of, you know, perspective, right? For sure. And it's important to have, because it gives you better knowledge, and if you know, if you got knowledge, you can make better choices, right? So fuck, that's all I want to do. I want to help people gain the knowledge so they can get better choices. That's it, that's all. Smoke a couple of J's in the meantime. So where is the next one? 26, 29. 291 cases. Oh yeah, so this is the amount of cases that we had at this time. I think it was 290. At January 22nd. I think that's when this video was. Sorry, I'm a terrible DJ here. Okay, we'll try it just from there. Yeah, so again, January 22nd. This is how many cases we had.
What those numbers are again. Thank you.
Yeah, the data we presented was referring to what we were reported to today, which was 291 cases, which it included those clinical cases requiring admission to hospital. So probably, as I said, at the more severe end of the spectrum. The figures that I quote of 64% male and 72% over 40 referred to that group of 291 individuals. I hope that clarifies.
Sorry, the mic was off. You missed my whole introduction. Not that it matters. But it's important to know what's going on around this time. And at this time, we had 291 cases confirmed, right? 291 cases. And like, this like, you know, we know this is real. And I wouldn't show it to you if I wasn't like confident that it was genuine. These guys are in hazmat suits. They got bags on their boots, and you know, they're just pulling in body after body after body on these stretchers, right? These are severe cases, obviously, right? And you got people dead in the hallways. And like, this is the Wuhan hospital where it all went down, right? And again, this is from the 24th, but it you know, it was probably uploaded, or this was probably taken, I'd say, in between anywhere from the 18th to the 22nd, 23rd, right? Just because it didn't come out right away. People had to share this stuff and had to circulate, so it took a little while. But yeah, it's good to get a perspective of where, you know, these World Health Organization, they're making their decisions, right? They're making their decisions. You know, there's no public health emergency at this time, because this is, you know, streamed January 22nd, right? Boom. I'll even highlight it for you. I'll try to. Can't highlight it? Why? Ooh, there we go. It's pink. So, January 22nd. This is, you know, before they claimed all the fucking... Before they called out the public health emergency for the globe, right? But this was happening at the same time. This is what was happening. And they were saying, no, don't worry, it's not an issue. No. We're the hospital in Wuhan. Like, you can tell, like, they're just, you know, sorry about keep pausing that, but this oxygen tank, okay, they got oxygen tanks everywhere. Why? Because it's a respiratory disease and they got to put you on oxygen support. That's why. Well, it's not just a respiratory disease, but it's a symptom of it, right? There's oxygen tanks everywhere. There's people in hazmat suits. You know, this is real. It's China. It's real, right? I wouldn't show it to you if it wasn't. So this is, again, perspective. Like, they're just coming in stretchers, by stretchers, and they're like, you know what I mean? This is on the 22nd of January. But, you know, this was happening, you know, a little earlier than that, maybe. You know, they're just like, go, like, take them somewhere. There's nowhere we can put them. Like, what are they gonna do? Right? And this guy's actually in another video having a seizure. I'm not even, yeah, right? I wouldn't. So anyways, let's go back to the World Health Organization update. We'll get some more facts here. We'll get some more. We'll go a little bit of facts from these guys, and we'll go a little bit of local news at the time, right? Kind of thing. We'll split it up. You know, I thought of that idea myself. I don't know if it was, you know. Anyway, I just hope it's giving people a better perspective and reflective view of, you know, of where we were and where we are. So next thing on the agenda is transmission factors. So this is how about being it spread. You know, okay, yeah. And again, this is from January 22nd, so.
Earlier questions about what we know about the human-to-human spreading, and it is still very early days, you know, to characterize the full extent of this human-to-human transmission. What we're hoping for from our Chinese colleagues, and also from any countries that have an exported case or a case imported into their country, is to look for onward transmission. What level of secondary transmission amongst close contacts exists. We haven't seen any secondary transmission from any of those exported cases, and that is quite important. Within China, we've asked our colleagues in China to further explain to us what they're doing to better understand the extent of infection in Wuhan, but also in other parts of China. And then, importantly, amongst those cases that they've identified, how many of those are related to human-to-human transmission, and then in what context did that human-to-human transmission take place? Was it in a household? Was it in a healthcare facility? Was it in the community? So those are critical pieces of information that we need to know to be able to characterize the full extent of transmission.
And maybe I could supplement here, because there's a difference between a daily reporting of cases and when those cases had their onset. And many of the cases reported over the last 2 days could be cases that have been picked up retrospectively based on enhanced surveillance, and their dates of onset may be over many, many days, many weeks. We don't know. That is why we did receive some really helpful disaggregated data from China a number of days ago around the original cluster around the Wuhan thing, around the Wuhan cluster around the seafood market. It will be extremely helpful at this point that China, and I believe they have every intention to do so, is to share that disaggregated data.
Okay, so that was at the time right there that China was not sharing the data. Because he said, what did he just say? I believe China has every intention of sharing that data, but they just haven't done it yet. Oh, why wouldn't they share it? What's the delay? Odd, right? Kind of. Let's just hear it again.
Many of the cases reported over the last 2 days could be cases that have been picked up retrospectively based on enhanced surveillance, and their dates of onset may be over many, many days, many weeks. We don't know. That is why we did receive some really helpful disaggregated data from China a number of days ago around the original cluster around the Wuhan thing, around the Wuhan cluster around the seafood market. It will be extremely helpful at this point that China, and I believe they have every intention to do so, is to share that disaggregated data, because it's really important that we're able to do that secondary analysis, construct those epidemic curves, and estimate the doubling times and the rates of movement of the virus, both in terms of temporal rate and the geographic rate. So we look forward to receiving that data from China as soon as possible.
All right. And everybody's like, oh, and now, you know, the whole thing now, after it was declared like a global emergency, you know, it's shifted. And I'm going to show you why it's shifted. The whole demeanor of everybody. You know, but here they're admitting, you know, even, hey, China's not sharing the information. They gave us, you know, the information around the market where it originated, and they gave us the genome. But, you know, this other critical information that we're missing, we're not getting it. Why? Why? Exactly, why? And we're still not getting it. We weren't getting it then, we're still not getting it now. Right? But they're trying to calm everybody down. I'm not trying to, you know, spike out every little thing that's wrong with this, but I will. Because you gotta see it and prove me wrong. Right? You know what I mean? If you can prove me wrong, fuck, I'll eat my hat. I will. And I'll put ketchup on it. And I'm not saying, and I'm not saying 100%, I'm not saying I'm 100% right on a lot of this stuff, but you can see the data is not lining up. And I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you. So, what's the next thing on the agenda here? 39. Not sure what this is. We're just going to go and I'm going to play it.
In Europe, without no borders, how can governments apply these procedures to restrain the epidemic?
Gerard, did you say that how we can distinguish virus from the flu?
Yeah.
Yes, so...
If you didn't hear that, they're asking, you know, since it's flu season most places, and this thing has the exact same symptoms as a flu, how can they distinguish it? Which is a huge question, right? And basically, they don't have an answer except to say, well, you know, this is blah, 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 blah. But they don't go into the actual fact that if people think they have this and they go to the hospitals to get tested, are they going to test every single person in there that gets this? How could they do that? Right? You got to think about that. There's no way, not even 10% of the population of the planet could get tested for this with the resources that we have in a healthcare system. We just couldn't do it. Right? We couldn't do it because it's like, well, you get chills and you get, like, you know, unless you have severe symptoms and you have the onset pneumonia and you have another complications and you're advanced in your stage, they're not going to pick this up. And you know what? Do you know what they're saying all the time now? We're only seeing very mild cases. Well, holy shit. Don't let that fool you, because that is very concerning. Very concerning. You see why, right? Because it's just like the flu, like the regular flu, in the sense of symptoms. Right? So how would you know if you didn't have, you got to go get tested for this. The test takes a little while to do. They're testing people that they absolutely have to test right now, considering close contacts and all this tracing and stuff they're doing now from people who traveled from there. Right? The most, they're going after the most intermediate cases, and they're branching out from there. So they already got their hands full, not including, what people are going to have to do with flu season, which is a huge what if, right? And I'm just saying, hey, it's absolutely fucking impossible to detect this thing. Really. Not everybody can just go to the hospital and get a test for this. Can't. So be aware, please. Fucking be aware. Because, like, you know what? It's not worth it. Fuck, it's not worth it. To, like, be under critical right now. Especially given the circumstances and the times and the nature of the gravity of the situation, right? China's on lockdown. 1.4 billion people are essentially on some form of quarantine. Wow. But anyway, it's just the flu.
That's a good question. Thank you for that. So many of these respiratory pathogens that are circulating are, it's very difficult to distinguish between different viruses. What we understand from the 2019 novel coronavirus is that it can cause a range of disease in individuals who are infected, from mild disease all the way to severe disease and death. That's quite a range. Investigations are still ongoing to better articulate what proportion of individuals will have mild disease or severe disease and what risk factors they may have to result in more significant disease. In the beginning of an infection, you start out perhaps with some mild respiratory diseases. What we refer to are the diagnostics that have been rapidly developed thanks to the rapid...
So anyway, I'm not gonna make you listen to any more of that. Yeah, she's French, right? She is French. And she's cute just because of that reason. But still, doesn't have any answers. So, what else? It's hard to distinguish from the flu, right? Obviously, which is a major concern because most people don't show symptoms from this, and we know this now. And if you don't know this, goddamn Google it, and just put asymptomatic transmission coronavirus 2019, but not just coronavirus, because that will single out all the other coronaviruses. You got to put in I guess it's COVID-19 now, or nCoV-19, whatever. So many names. And I've even seen in actual documented studies, published studies, SARS CoV-2, referring to this exact disease. So I don't know, maybe that was just a thing before, but whatever. I've seen that as well. So back into this, it's not much longer, and then this is January 22nd. Go into a couple of more local things that were happening at the time, or local videos at the time. Just to put perspective into this, right? And it's just a heads up, the videos are real. And if you got a squeamish stomach for real situations and people fucking suffering, well, I'm sorry. I got no problem watching it because it's a sin, right? And those people need more more action from us. Because they're going through it, right? There's not much we can do to help them, but there's a lot we can do to help ourselves. And if we don't at least prepare, all those people are gonna fucking go in vain, right? It's not cool. Not cool. So, virus flu death rate. Not even gonna go into that. Why bother? Because they still don't know. I just marked that. Antivirals. Okay, at the time, let's just check this out because they still don't know. But it is important, right? Because everybody's, even in the media today, like right now, there's all these kind of little snippets about viral breakthrough or antiviral breakthroughs, vaccine breakthroughs, and they're trying all these treatments and everything in the toolbox, right? So. The most latest to note is the plasma transfusions that they're trying here. They're basically gonna give their extracted plasma from people who, let's say, are now testing negative for this, or they've been tested negative. So in their mind, they're essentially cleared. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna extract plasma from these people and make it's basically super juice for your immune system, and it's gonna pump all these good guys in there, like an extreme amount of good guys. They actually call it a cytokine storm. And then these little cytokine messengers, they will signal, they're like little signaling proteins or amino acids or whatever the fuck they are, right? The science stuff. But they send a signal to say, hey, come on over here, and they got these gibberellins. And they come in, and those, they do the dirty work, and they try to sweep everything out. But there's a lot of things that can go wrong with those kind of things too, right? So it's in a medical term, in a medical sense, it's a desperate move. I can tell you that. It's, for and of course, they don't have very much, right? So they're obviously gonna resort to desperate measures in desperate times. But it can work. It can work sometimes. But it's not always been so great.
For which we would like to have more information, because it's of course a very important point to decide.
Oops, I think I went too far ahead of that. Sorry. Gotta hear the question, at least. 47.20. I'll start at 47.5.
To antivirals, what are the prospects of coming up with one that's effective? Thank you.
Yes, the question about the fatality rate is clearly one of the question mark which was raised during the meeting of the committee. If we refer to the previous coronavirus epidemics in 2003 and more recently with the MERS coronavirus, the fatality rate was much higher than it appears to be today. But this is one of the aspects which for which we would like to have more information, because it's of course a very important point to decide whether it is a major public health threat or not. That's the response.
Thank you very much. And maybe we can really take the last question for tonight from...
Antivirals.
Antiviral, sorry.
There have been a number of compounds that have been used in the fight against coronavirus, but it's very important to recognize that there is no recognized effective therapeutic against coronaviruses. There are protease inhibitors and interferons that may help as adjuncts to treatment, but they have their own issues with toxicity. So the primary objective in an outbreak...
And that's what he's talking about right there. Remember, this is from the 22nd. Interferons. It's basically the same. What they're doing is they're going to inject the body like with a super big amount of basically synthesized signals, I guess. Anyway, and inject it into your body, and it's supposed to have antiviral or antibody aspects to it. If they're kind of thinking that now because they have people that have been cured, so their body in turn would kind of build up an immunity to this. But anyways, he admitted right there that there's toxicity issues with that, because you can overload the system, and you do overload the system, you really do. Because you put so many good fighting, so many good guys in there to fight, that it's actually going to start attacking your good cells too. It's just how it happens. And they call it a cytokine storm, and it's like an anti-inflammatory reaction, right? Like this can, it's your body can overproduce, right? So if they give it to the person and their body reacts to it, they could definitely triple the amount that they're already putting in there. So it could basically be a very bad thing. But for somebody who has no other option and they're already going south, right? Like what there's nothing you got to lose, right? It's the last resort, so why not? And that's where they're at currently. You know, this is the 22nd, and that's where we're going to leave it right now. I'm going to continue this video. We're going to start on the 23rd of January because they did they did another update after this one. Yeah, so if you just want to stick around for the other one, it won't be long. I'm just gonna go have a quick cigarette and we'll get right back into it. And I'm doing it this way because I think it's gonna be a lot easier for people to find it and classify the information instead of just running it right through one big video. But I can't edit videos. I tried. I suck. I do. I do a good job just to get the microphone sounding as great as it does, and it's got a little bit of a blanket over it. It's the old red green duct tape trick. So anyway, with that, see you in the next video.